The Brussels Report podcast.
Welcome to a new episode of the Brussels Report podcast. My name is Pieter Cleppe. I'm the editor-in-chief of BrusselsReport.eu, and I'm very happy today to have as my guest Spanish MEP Hermann Tertsch. So, welcome.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Thank you. So Hermann Tertsch is a long-time journalist, 40 years of experience in Spain as a journalist, also as an international correspondent. I saw in Yugoslavia. He's the author of many books, also novels, and since a few years he's also a member of European Parliament for Vox. So it's great to have you here, and I think the first subject I want to discuss is the conference on the future of Europe. I mean, notably the ECR they decided to walk out of this conference. So what's your opinion on this?
Well, we did well. I mean, there was a discussion if we should have participated in general in it. But well, it was fine to be there to see that everything confirmed the worst fears that it's really a farce, a really predeterminated question which Mr. Verhofstadt and the Commission they are playing there with their map, with their ideological map to make this kind of progression towards a single a state, a mega state, without really having, let's say, the guts to ask the nations if they want to, because they are with all reasons they are afraid that if we come to a treaty and they have to go to consult the nations will say no, and they will say no now, and many more will say no in 2 years' time. So that what are they doing? They are doing this kind of plays of the conference of the future of Europe. They're doing social engineering with the aim of bringing fait accompli in many questions where they can underhold the sovereignty of the nations without asking the nations. There are other instruments as well. By the way, we don't know how much has it cost this all this theater of the conference on the future of Europe. We have not the slightest idea what the costs were, and they are saying that it is impossible to determine what the costs are, which is quite curious. That we are coming into a European Union now, where the Commission, when you ask them, let's say, what happens with the vaccines, they come out with some documents which are completely black.
Incredible.
Which are completely blackened, where you can't read anything, and all the information is obscured, and you complain for that, and they say, well, it was conditions of the company. They say, but don't you know that you are not able, you have no capacity of making secret deals with these companies in no way and in no question. I say, well, we were able, as you see, we were able to make secret deals because the deals are indeed secret, and all the relations with Pfizer and with other companies and so on are secret, and the conditions are secret, and that's why we have to see that when people come and say, well, von der Leyen, is the husband of von der Leyen really working for someone who is for a company which is in the Pfizer conglomerate? And you say, well, I wonder, it could easily be. but we have no information about what the
Yes.
relations with Pfizer are.
And if I can interject, it's not, I mean, of course, that we don't know, but what we do know is that in the past we had many conflicts of interest. And indeed, it's only going to be possible for the European Parliament to control this if they have access to all the information. And also with the Conference on the Future of Europe, I saw a document with on the contract with Qatar, and also a whole page was completely black. I mean, like we were in Saudi Arabia or something.
That's it. That's it. I mean, we are getting used. This majority not only tolerates, they promote the secrecy of the commission because they are in the same boat, and they are doing. They are afraid of the next legislature. They are of the next term. They are afraid of the elections of 2024 because they think that the majority where they have been in the last decades, they have been so easily, this mainstream has been so easily using this social democratic consensus with the people's parties and the Socialist Party and the Greens and the Renew or ALDE and so on, the liberals, so-called liberals and so on.
So-called liberals.
Yeah, that they are all doing social democratic policy,
Yes.
imposing the same policy, and they are afraid that maybe this play doesn't work anymore in 24, and so they are in a hurry. That's why this conference, this obscure conference.
Yes, and what I see now is that the European Parliament is asking for a treaty change. But perhaps, in a way, of course, we all know what they want to achieve with that. But of course, if we want to, let's say, reform the EU to, I mean, how I and think many Eurosceptic free marketeers would like to see it, we probably also need treaty change, right? If we want to reform it for the better.
We want to reform it for the better, going back to basics, back to basics, and not letting that this unelected organs there that we have imposed to the countries and humiliate countries if they exert their sovereignty. That's what we are profoundly against. And now they are speaking about this convention. What are we going to play again? Convention, bringing up the convention. We didn't have enough with 20 years ago. What happened? They want to go now in another way to see if they can do it without consulting the party and the nations, because they know they won't be able to do it with the nation. And now we have, at least in this moment, we have in the council some countries which will block, at least for the time being, they will block this stories. But they are very persistent because they have the plans are made. They're finishing all these documents on the future of Europe. They were already done when they started. I mean, that's and they have elected. They've taken 800 friends, absolutely friends, appointed by them to hear what they want to hear, and they say that is the consulting that they have consulted the European society. It's a kind they are kidding. I mean, you would think they are kidding, but they are not kidding. They do it damn serious. So we are very much against that. In the most definitive tones, and we will resist, and we will denounce this in our public opinion in all the countries where we can and where we are present, and I think they will have we will have growing resistance to all this social engineering with this conference, but also with the Green Pact, which is a Green Pact, which
the Green
is
Deal,
a socialist, a kind of socialist, not quinquennial, but a decadal plan, a monstrous Leninist plan that wants to interfere in every angle and corner and millimeter of the human existence and human activity. It's absolutely unacceptable for people who have a minimum respect for freedom and for individuals and for the nations and for the history and for the freedom itself of the enterprise and for property. Uh, I mean, if you respect these minimum values, European, proto-European Western values, which are freedom, life, family, property, uh, uh, and freedom of expression, and so on, you can't really accept what they are doing in the Commission and
Yes,
what
yes.
the mainstream forces are doing in this Parliament,
Yeah, the
which
Green Deal is indeed a good example. But I think another example is with war in Ukraine. Last year they decided the European Peace Facility, but when the war broke out, this is now being used to finance arms to transfer to Ukraine. Now, don't get me wrong. I have full sympathy for Ukraine and against Russia, but I think we have to first of all question is it so wise to send arms into a conflict? Maybe to a certain degree, but I think some clear limits I think should be there. And then secondly, even if we send arms, is it the job and the task of the European Union level to do that? I personally find that very disturbing. Even if I would be in favor of sending arms, to have a sort of a European Union budget used for that.
yeah, well, I think the European Union is overstepping. I'm absolutely in favor of defending Ukraine because we're defending
Sure,
Ukraine. I think we are defending ourselves. I have enormous sympathy for Ukraine, but I have enormous sympathy as well for my Poles, with my allies, which
sure.
are one of the strongest allies, and I think they would be the next Putin if Putin succeeds. So I think, and he would have succeeded without the heroic resistance of the Ukrainians, because the plan was to have Ukrainians surrendering immediately, and if they would have done, Europe would have looked in another way to the Commission, and in 5 days they would have forgotten, and they would have
Mm.
put very light sanctions as they did when Crimea was annexed. But the thing is, the Ukrainians resisted. Poland and the neighbors of Russia know that the danger they are in, and I think the reaction is very wide from all Europe. But the thing is, as you correctly say, what
Mm.
on the hell? We have a NATO, we have other
Yes,
means.
we have
What
NATO.
is why von der Leyen is taking here, and Borrell, who has been
Yes.
really a nothing. Borrell has been supporting Cuba, which is a strong ally of Russia. He
Mhm.
has been doing all kinds of tricks for avoiding more sanctions for Venezuela, who is another ally of Russia. He went to Russia and had his fiasco there.
Yes,
Nobody knows why he was going to Russia in the terms he was going in this time 2 years ago.
with
So I
Lavrov.
mean,
Yeah.
the whole commission itself is doing what they are not supposed to do, and they are not doing what they are supposed to do.
And it's
They
dangerous, I
should,
think, to
yeah,
let them play into this very high stakes game. These are important responsibilities, and I mean, yeah,
I
I
think the
really have grave
states,
concerns about that.
yeah, the states, the nations have an enormous responsibility there, and the defense has other levels, and I think it would be a great mistake to go into this path of the European army. I mean,
Mm.
a European army in the hands of Mrs. Lyon would not defend the European Union, but would be used to impose in Hungary or in Poland, impose the education they don't want, no, and they consistently refuse to have. That is the socialist education that Mrs. Lyon wants to impose them. So uh, going back to the question of the
Yes.
European Union. I think this commission, is absolutely poisonous in their intentions and in the deeds. And I think we have to make a strong opposition. We have to unite in the opposition to this, and we have to make the nations in Europe react to this tendency, to these plans, which are really against freedom of speech, against values, against European values, and against everything what we know and what is dear to us now. It's against the society we want to live in. In this sense, I'm very optimistic in the sense that the conservative forces, even where there are some differences, and some differences also in this question of the war with some people of the ID group, and the group of ECR, but we have been doing steps on the conservative angle, doing steps towards an increased cooperation. I think that will increase. It should increase in any case. And when we have let's say when we go over this crisis, profound crisis of the war, I think values will be stronger than ever, because we are seeing now what all this opportunistic, what all this hypocrite policy has been of bringing us in such a dependence on Russia, because of this climate
Yes.
paranoia, because of these ecological fanatics that we have in the parliament, which are producing all kinds of limits, regulations, and some regulations which are against the interests of the people, and which are in no way a danger. Danger are these commissars, these political commissars that we have developed in a radicalization of the
Well, and
of the
that's also
ideology in the
that's an
ideology which.
underappreciated point, that the dependence on Russia is not something natural. I mean, especially Germany's dependence on Russia. It's indeed
Why?
because of the climate policies. Because
Why?
if you support renewables, then you don't want nuclear and you don't want coal, then you need to go with gas. And Russia has lots of
Yeah,
gas. And now the Commission says, oh, we need to have even more renewables.
yeah, yeah. They didn't. They closed the nuclear. They had their nuclear stuff there. They closed it. Spain closed it as well, also because of the ideological question. We have had in Europe. There is so much damage of all this left wing rubbish of ideology, of this interest in looking for extremes, and that the extremes they are always imposing their views, because the mainstream bloc of socialists and liberals, so-called liberals, and so-called People's Party. They were once in the time they were Christ Democrats. They said now they are Social Democrats. Merkel destroyed his party and made it the better Social Democrats, and that
Yes.
has happened all over the places in Europe. And so we have their mainstream, which is always uh, going after the in the terms and in the direction of the radicals of this leftist ideology, in all kinds of things, in gender, in counseling, in history counseling, in ecology,
Yes.
and in this climate kind of urgency, where
Yes.
they can put and where they can really justify almost everything, because if they are saving the planet, for saving the planet, they can do every kind of the worst thing is possible,
Yes.
and the worst sacrifice can be imposed on people if they are saving the planet. And so
And actually,
we should
going on that.
we should go out of this history of them, and we should really confront directly to this ideology, which is, as I say, poisonous.
Well, and actually, it's a good topic because in your own country, in Spain, you have, I would say, quite a left-wing government in charge. It's not often discussed in the international forum. So could you tell us a bit more about the political situation there, and what are the prospects for the next elections?
Yeah, it's always very funny when this commission and the mainstream here in the parliament, in every plenary now, we are here in Strasbourg, in every plenary, they have to make some way to justify a point where they can, a resolution, a report, something, or some state of affairs, or some urgency, no, to make the bashing of Poland and Hungary and so on. And nobody cares about Spain, where they're violating systematically the law. We have a government with communists inside, with connections with the drug lords in Latin America, with the worst people in Latin America, deep connections of corruption of the
Yes,
Socialist Party and of these communist groups of Podemos,
Podemos. Yeah.
and of the separatists of Catalonia, which are also connected not only with Russia, but also with all these narco regimes, narco communists in Cuba, with the forces of the FARC, terrorists, narco terrorists in Colombia. They are represented. The representative of these people, of this terrorist group in negotiation, peace negotiation, so called peace negotiation in Cuba, is a man who is now Secretary of State of the Agenda 2030 in Spain, in the
Okay.
government of Spain. We have in Congress, in the Parliament, but also in posts in the institutions and as officials of this government, we have people uh, who come really from the darkest corners of the violence, of political violence and political criminality in Colombia, in Ecuador, in Bolivia, in Mexico, in Cuba, and they are playing in this government, and they are moving thousands of millions in very very questionable ways.
Okay.
Uh,
And these are ministers and
Yeah, we
ministers.
had now Avalos, a minister who now he quit the government. He's taken out of the government, maybe because he's too obscene. But other ministers are obscene as well.
Yes,
Their connections, as I say, their connections with Maduro
with
and
Maduro. Yeah.
Diaz Canel are really dreadful and threatening everything. They are sabotaging the policy of the DEA, of the of and of the Department of Justice of the United States in looking after the drug lords and people like this Saab, who is one of the major agents of Maduro, who was arrested, was going to be deported to, and he has been actually eventually was deported to the United States. I mean, there were the government people of Spain have been doing all kind of operations to try to avoid this delivering these people to the justice in the United States. We had Pollo Carvajal, who was the Secret Service chief of Chavez. He was in Spain, and he has been protected in Spain
Okay.
by the government, and he was looked after. He was wanted by the United States, and he is now arrested and has to be delivered, has to be
Okay.
given over to the United States. But as I say, the Spanish government has closed down practically the parliament twice. The Constitutional Court said It was an absolute obscene violation of the law, of the constitution. Nothing happened. We have the general prosecutor is Dolores Delgado, whose husband is Baltasar Garzón, who is the advocate, the attorney. He's an attorney for the worst narco drug dealers of Latin America. And we are speaking about the general prosecutor of Spain is married to this man who has been active. Baltasar Garzón has been active in the Foro de Sao Paulo, which is this multinational network of drug regimes, of communists, and of guerrillas, which have been they have been in charge of all these violent takeovers, who protect Ortega, who protect Cuba, the Cuban dictatorship, and so on. And we have these people in government with the
And
connections.
what about sort of the more the economic policies of the Sanchez government?
Well, the economic policy doesn't exist because it's a lie. Everything is a lie. I mean, they are lying to the European Union, and they ask for money. They want money. They eventually they got the money. As you know, they haven't. They are working again with an enormous debt. No?
Yes.
With this enormous debt, with deficit. They are augmenting the deficit. It's increasing. They couldn't care less because they're getting now this help of the pandemic. They're getting from the program, from this
Yes, the
new
recovery
generation
fund.
program.
Yeah, yeah.
From they are getting the funds now. They get again 12,000. It was 19,000. Now they are the one who are going to get most with Italians. So they are very happy, and they go, and they don't say one single truth in no way and in no case. Now they are playing. We have the worst unemployment of Europe, of course, of the OCDE. We have the worst performance of the last 3 years of the OCDE, and they have a parallel history that they explain in the media. They have all the media are bought up. They have all the TVs, or private and public TVs, promoting the lies of this government, which is it's a kind of Latin American government, in the sense which it's un-European, because no European government till now has afford to make such kind of dishonest policy, open dishonest policy, and this policy of lying without any responsibility, and they would never take a responsibility. No, not one single person of this government who has been breaking the law since it came to power. Not one single person has resigned.
Maybe one more topic also related to Spain is, of course, Catalonia. Personally, I've as somebody who always in favor of decentralization, I've always thought that, look, the Basque countries in Spain, they have these medieval rights to have to set their own taxes to a certain degree. I mean, why not sort of as a means of a compromise, try to have the Swiss model in Spain, where, let's say, not only Catalonia, but also Extremadura would get the right to, let's say, decide corporation tax and then set it at a very low level. Is that something you would support, that could perhaps, help the situation improve?
No, we have seen 40 years now of decentralization have brought us only grievances, unloyalty, and financial catastrophe, and corruption to a level which is inimaginable. We have 17 states practically playing to be states, using the public money, using the money for their political gains, in a way which is absolutely obnoxious.
Regions, yeah.
It's obscene, in the sense that these medieval fueros of the Basque Country. I'm half Basque. I've lived in the Basque Country. I know the advantages that the Basque Country had. It has brought no loyalty from the radicals, and it has alienated the loyals. In this sense, it has sent many Spaniards, loyal Spaniards, out, and it has increased the power along all these years. It has increased the power of the separatists and of the hatred to Spain in the Basque Country, in Catalonia, and they are exporting it now to the neighbor regions. So it has been a failure. The autonomy system is a failure, and we have to overlook it and change it.
And if I may just interrupt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that in Spain, like in many countries where you have some decentralization, typically what they do is they decentralize the spending. They give a bunch of money, but they do not decentralize taxation. And this is very different in Switzerland, for example. In Switzerland, as a canton, you can spend a lot, but then you have to also raise the taxes. So that's sort of what I was trying to get at, which is actually also the problem in Bosnia, that these supposed cantons over there don't have any taxation power. So perhaps would that not bring some responsibility, that no bailouts for the regions? You can spend whatever you want, but you have to then ask the money to the people yourself.
No, we have seen the Basque Country has the capability to raise and it had no positive effect neither. Right. So we are against that. We are in favor of going back to the provinces. We want to get out of this taifas, of these little kingdoms that we have created, 17 kingdoms that everybody plays for itself and against the others. And we have made laws, different laws. They have destroyed the unitary market. We are looking for a bright market in Europe, and they have destroyed the unitary market in Spain. We have gone in the wrong direction very far. We have to correct many things. We want a decentralized administration, but we don't want political fragmentation. And we want this political fragmentation to be overcome and overruled.
Okay, well, that's a clear view. So thank you very much, Hermann Tertsch. I thought it was really interesting to listen to you and hear your perspective, and of course I wish you well in let's say opposing the current European Commission. That's indeed, I would say, no friend of those that want free market policies and decentralization in the European Union.
That's what we want.
Great.
Thank you very much. And next time I'm ready whenever you want.
Thank you very much. Let's stay in touch. Thank you. Bye.
The Brussels Report podcast.